Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, July 15th. The LA Galaxy getting ready to take on the Vancouver Whitecaps coming up this weekend. Kicks off the first of a three-game road trip for the Galaxy that, if you listen to our Monday show, we said you have be a little optimistic about this particular road trip. So a lot to get to. Efrain Alvarez becoming a U-22 player. We had talked about that on previous shows, but we want to make sure we get you all the info on that. We're also going to get you updates on injuries, who's available, who's not. We had a media call today. Revolution spoke for the first time. Greg Vanney was speaking as well. Some Ted Lasso news in terms of Greg Vanney there, so we'll update you there. Get you through some fun stats, get you ready for that game in Vancouver at the end of this show. So a lot to get to, a lot of fun little things that we were able to pick up to help me do all that. He's back, which is good, because I think people miss him. I'm not sure anymore. It's Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how's it going, buddy?
It's going fantastic. I'm glad to be back. I know there's that saying, distance makes the heart grow fonder. It's true. It's true. I miss all our listeners. I miss you, Josh. Miss your Musk.
Yeah.
So it's glad to be back, even though we don't get that digitally. Yeah, but still. Yeah. So yeah. I'll kick it off with that.
Okay, good. I'm glad that you're excited. I'm again. I didn't see the Uber driver pull up with my white girl coffee. So I am breaking my rule. I am back on the Dr. Pepper apparently. So yeah, it was one of the what nobody can see that it dissipates. It's green.
It's tea. I'm having tea, a refreshing mint tea.
Gross.
So,
gross.
Yeah, in this heat.
Gross.
In this economy.
Gross. I'm not a big fan of any tea except for black tea. I don't know what that says about me. But I'm gonna lay it out there right now. Big fan of black tea. Anything else probably can go get lost. So yeah, that was me saying that.
Hot. We're off to a great start.
We are. Hey, I want to remind everybody, if everybody wants to really see us go off the rails, a big reminder that we're having a live event. That means you can come see us in person. We're going to do a 90-minute show. We have special guests planned. We have some giveaways planned. We have a whole bunch of stuff that hopefully is going to be a ton of fun, and you need to buy your tickets. Not you, Eric. I think we'll let you come in for free, but other people need to buy their tickets. They're just $5 if you go to our website, cornerofthegalaxy.com/live, and if you click there and scroll down, you can see the buy tickets tag there. You click on that and it'll take you over to buy your tickets. I'm hearing that eventually the venue said that we're not allowed to have any more than 1,000 people, Eric. So I'm just saying, everybody, I'm not saying we're gonna sell out. I'm just saying there's a possibility. Okay, so you might want to get your tickets and hurry up and do that. That's totally a real thing that is happening, is the 1,000 people thing. So go get them. The link for everybody in the live show is pinned to the top there. So I expect you to buy your tickets while you're doing it, mostly because my ego cannot handle waiting. It makes me nervous, and so please go get those. $5 for tickets. And as I have said now multiple times, Eric, and I am very serious, if you can't afford it and you still want to come to the show, then come to the show. It's absolutely fine. Listen, nobody's going to check your tickets. I didn't want to say it out loud, but nobody's going to check your tickets. Okay, but we're trying to do this to get an idea of how many people are coming and also help us stage the show that we're putting on.
Yeah, it's very PBS-esque. I think you and the Panda were talking about that, how, give what you can. So
Right.
at $5, I feel like, that's a nominal fee considering, the free podcast that comes out and the hard work that you do and Panda and us coming on, Thursdays. So I figure, it's worth it if you want to, contribute. And I know that's all going to go right back into the show. So, we're not, we're not riding off into the sunset with any of that cash. And again, if $5 doesn't work for you, then again, we're not going to be checking tickets. But I'm going to pay my $5, and so I have a ticket. So you can't turn me away. I don't want any funny business saying, "Oh, Eric can come for free," and then I show up and then I don't have a ticket. So I'm going to make sure that I buy my ticket so I could be let in the door. But I'm looking forward to it. Should be exciting. Last time we did it at Taps, we had a great time, and that was when the game was canceled.
Yes.
So I can imagine now with
no
restrictions lifting and people, the season going on and not being preseason, I think it's going to be even a more lively atmosphere than we had last time. And last time was still a good time.
Well, and you know what the best part is? There is a game Friday night, right? So
Yeah.
we will have a game to review on Saturday, which is totally fun because that's like always the best thing. We get to talk about a game that actually happened. Maybe we're going to have some players who played in that game talk to us. I don't know.
That's a tease. That's a tease.
Tease. Yeah, I don't know. That could happen. You never know. So anyway, we have a bunch of people coming. Definitely be there. We're gonna do some I don't know, raffles, or somehow we're gonna figure out ways to do some giveaways. But there's some stuff there. Yeah. So I remind you now. I will remind you once again at the end. But go to cornerofthegalaxy.com, click the live button. You can go down, see the event page. Has some details there for you. You read through it, click your buy tickets thing, and we'll rock and roll. So, and I will absolutely be checking to see if people are buying their tickets while we're doing the show, because that's all I do all day anyway. So.
And that's a peek behind the curtain, kind of lets you know the two types of people in this world. There's the yous of the world who 3 weeks in advance you're checking. Okay, we're at 15. We're at 19. We're at 31.
Don't I text you? Don't I text you every time we get an update? I'm like, hey,
and I'm like, it's at the end of the month, 2 weeks before. If I were a civilian, a regular listener, not a co-host. I don't know what the right term is.
Right.
If I were going, I'd probably wait till the day before to buy the tickets, just because it is what it is. So.
Yeah, but relax,
Josh. It's
you're
okay.
a Rich Galaxy fan. You're a Rich Galaxy fan. You are going to be there, by the way. I should tell people you are going to be there. You are flying in
Correct.
for this. I mean, we're pretending you're flying in specifically for this, but we may have timed it up so that way you will be here. So you're flying in for this. If that isn't dedication, I don't know what it is.
It is.
All right, good. I'm glad we got that out of the way. Let's get to the LA Galaxy now. Why not? It's a show called Corner of the Galaxy. We talk about the LA Galaxy. Let's talk about Efrain Alvarez signing his multi-year contract extension, less years than what Julian Araujo got. Not surprising, I think, both from an Efrain perspective and maybe also from the Galaxy perspective as well. But the LA Galaxy announced today the club has signed Mexican international and homegrown midfielder Efrain Alvarez to a 2-year contract extension through the end of 2023 MLS regular season with a club option for 2024. So he's 19 years old. He's going to occupy one of those MLS U-22 initiative spots. Again, this is one of the things that you can look at and say, I'm not 100% sure that Efrain absolutely qualifies for this, but it's one of those things that MLS has said, yes, you get to be a U-22 because this is beneficial to us as the league, as well as beneficial to the LA Galaxy to grab them. A lot of people are trying to put this into perspective about what this means, because when you look at Julian Araujo, you see a starter for the LA Galaxy. You see a guy who's making a difference in every single game. You see all those things, right? That's great for Julian Araujo. On the Efrain, Alvarez side, we've seen flashes of greatness. We've seen struggles and sort of it, and he's not a starter. I know he's had spot starts this year, but if everybody's healthy, Efrain Alvarez is on the bench, and there aren't a bunch of people who he's kicking off the bench. Not right now. That could change. And so I think if we're looking at this from, the Julian Araujo side, Eric, we say, 100% makes sense. The Galaxy are going to sell Araujo, and they're going to get a whole bunch of money. I think they're putting in and hedging for the future on Efrain Alvarez as well. And you see him off with the Mexican national team right now. There's buzz around him. If he was going to be sold, which probably happens in the next 12 months, my guess, 12 to 18 months, let's say, then you want to have him secure enough to know that he can't leave for free. And Galaxy fans are certainly aware of young players who have come through the academy system that have left for free before. And so this is a way for the Galaxy to sort of tie those things up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's almost unfortunate that all the Efrain Alvarez talk is always precursored by the Julian Araujo talk, and it always ends up being a comparison. And of course, because of our opinions. Our opinions are known. It's not that we're Efrain haters. It's just when you compare the two, I think Araujo just has. He's more there right now. He's a better complete player who's closer to his fullest potential right now than Alvarez is. And so that's where it gets into that dicey territory because it feels like you're comparing them or you're slamming Alvarez. But you're right about the buzz part because he does have buzz around him. He's someone that the MLS talking heads always bring up, because of his youth. He always has that spark of energy like he's about to go off. But you're right. As of right now, he's a bench player. So when you look at the contract extension that Araujo got versus the contract extension that Alvarez got, it makes, based on their play and their status with the team, it kind of falls in line with that. And to me, it's more important about what you can do with the roster and what you can do when these players move on. That's more important than the extension itself or the length of contract on it, because I think right now, like you said, MLS isn't really getting picky with these. It's kind of like the Stuart Smalley. If you're young enough and you're good enough, then gosh darn it, we're going to pass that under 22 rule for you. So as long as they're allowing it, it's going to give the Galaxy flexibility. And you're right. I think there's a reason why it's probably 2 years. I think in the next 2 years, it's safe to say Alvarez will have at least one or two suitors come around, come knocking on the door, come looking for him. And then at that point, the Galaxy can, work out some type of deal to sell or transfer him or figure it out to go to that next time. And with Araujo, with a longer contract, I think that just gives the Galaxy more negotiating leverage because they have more time on the contract, and it gives them maybe the ability to name their price or change that price because they say, well, he's under contract for 4 years, so you're going to have to wait it out. If you want him, you really have to pay that price. So I think having longer years on Araujo ups the value, and then having shorter years on Alvarez maybe doesn't up the value, but it does create that buzz like he's going to be available, but you still have to go through us if you want to get it. So congratulations. All that to say after what comes across as an Efra hater bashing, but all that to say congratulations to Efrain Alvarez, because he is someone who you don't want to let walk, whether it's within MLS or to another team who's knocking around. He's someone who's a homegrown player. He's been with the club. He's been around them. You've helped generate that buzz for him. So for him to walk away and to get nothing from it, you need to have him extended. You need to have him under contract because that's, the Galaxy are deserving in whatever rewards come for Efrain, the Galaxy deserve to reap whatever those are.
Yeah, and I think that if you talk to anybody in the LA Galaxy front office, they're going to tell you, Julian Araujo, they're going to tell you that, Efrain Alvarez, these guys are wanted by other teams outside of this league. That's a well-known fact, right? And so it's one of those that it's a bit of a coup, if you will, that they're able to secure these guys longer into the future. A little shorter with Efrain Alvarez, I think both because maybe that makes more sense for Efrain not to be completely tied to the LA Galaxy that way. But also, I think the Galaxy are hedging their bets a little bit, that he's not as proven a commodity as, Julian Araujo is. And so, you don't want to, if it's not going to work out, you don't want to keep him forever. Julian Araujo is working out. I mean, you can see, unless he has a severe regression of where he's at, he's working out. Efrain still has to have that, appreciation. He needs, you're buying low with Efrain and you're hoping to get through it.
It feels like last season was Julian's coming out party, or maybe even the season before that. Right. It was probably because I almost forget about 2020 sometimes. But
Everybody
I think the season
does.
Before that was Julian's coming out party. Efrain, he's had moments, but you're right. He hasn't had that. This is our guy, our stalwart in the midfield. He just hasn't had that type of season yet. But he has the potential to do so, and so you're just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah. The other part about this is the U-22 spot and why that is beneficial to the LA Galaxy. Let me give you just an idea of what is happening right now. With a young designated player such as, Kevin Cabral, the LA Galaxy are allowed to sign 3 U-22 players. We've talked about this. So the Galaxy now have 2 of those players locked in. Now, what happens is, especially whenever you look at Araujo's not a homegrown player, right? And so we know that with certain homegrowns and depending on where they're listed on the roster, their salary does not hit the cap, right? That's one of the benefits of being a homegrown. We know some of those things. We look at that. And so with Araujo, we've always known that his salary hits the cap. Remember, the Galaxy jumped the gun on him. They wanted to get him in so bad to the first team that they pressed him probably like 3 or 4 months ahead of when they probably wanted to do it and would have made him a homegrown player. And instead, he comes on as something. But here's sort of where it is. The salary cap hits that are going to happen between, basically next year and the years on after that. The young designated player spot of Kevin Cabral, he's making what we think is about $1.4 million per year, okay? His salary is something that kept him out of being a U-22 player. But signing him as a young designated player gives the Galaxy the ability to sign these others, because if Cabral was a U-22 player and the LA Galaxy had 3 designated players, they would only be allowed 1 U-22 player. You couldn't do what they wanted to do right now. So with him being a young designated player, and certainly there were some flags that were raised whenever that happened, his salary cap hit is actually less than a full a designated player, which I think is a max cap hit of each of those. You have to take the max cap. You can pay it down with general allocation money, that type of thing. But a young designated player, the age of Kevin Cabral, is only a $200,000 cap hit. Okay, so that's already saving the LA Galaxy on the salary cap, and they're paying him $1.4 million. So they're paying him 1.4. It only hits at 200,000. That's a designated player thing. That's not out of range. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is for those who have, and when I say those, I'm talking about myself, who are saying, is Cabral really worth it? Maybe you haven't seen, similar to Alvarez, you see sparks of it, you see, some of it, but you haven't seen, is this guy really a designated player? Is he worth it? And when you look at it from that lens, you say, okay, maybe, he's not worth that designated player spot when you compare designated players from around the league. But if he's only costing your cap $200K, then in that case, it's worth it. And if you're paying him 1.4, then that's just what you're paying him. That's the price of doing business. And, he's young, and maybe he eventually gets sold on and you recoup that money. But when you think about it, for a $200K cap hit, it's like, are you upset at, like someone like a Cameron Dunbar for what their cap is costing? Because it's just, it's more than that, obviously, but it's in that range for what it's costing you. And then it also raises the question. So now with Araujo being signed as a U-22, Alvarez being signed as a U-22, the cap flexibility, what's coming next? What are they arranging this for? And it just makes you think maybe in the summer transfer, or they're preparing for something. There's another shoe that's going to drop. So, I don't know if you need to gas up the rumor tracker and figure out what's going to happen next, but it seems like this is all a setup for something bigger in mind.
Well, I mean, one, it's to lock these guys up. The salary caps for the U-22s, basically, you're allowed to pay them. If you're a non-homegrown, Eric, you can pay a U-22 up to the max budget charge. So you could pay a salary to Julian Araujo of $612,500, and his salary cap is still just $200,000. All right, so we've sort of shown that there's a $200,000 salary cap for Kevin Cabral. There's a $200,000 salary cap for Julian Araujo, and you can pay him up to $612,000, and that will go up next year because that's the max budget. It goes up every time. So you can keep paying guys more up against that max as you keep going, and their salary cap stays at the $200,000 as long as they're a U-22 player. With Efrain Alvarez, because he's a homegrown player, you can technically pay him $200,000 more than the max budget, which puts him in the $812,500 range, right? So you could pay him even more. His salary cap is still $200,000. So let's say you maxed everybody out and you took what Kevin Cabral's salary is at 1.4, and we'll say that that's what it is. You would have $600,000 of total cap space that you're using on those 3 players, $200,000 each, right? And you could be paying salaries out if they all maxed everybody out, at least this year, and that's not happening. But you could be paying out almost $3 million, $2.825 million paid out in salary, and you have a $600,000 salary cap. If you look at what would take if it was a full designated player, that salary cap, that full designated player might cost more than that in salary cap hit than what you're able to get 3 players for. So keep that in mind. This is, yes, it's a rules juggle. Yes, it's things, but ultimately it's allowing you to pay talent a lot more money, keep them in your system, and hopefully sell them and have a lot lower salary cap hits than you would in some other cases. So for me, looking at the U-22 rule, looking at how the LA Galaxy have implemented this, and yes, they do have one more U-22 slot open to be able to work on this. It's a really, really big deal. And then if they do sell these guys, if they sell Julian Araujo or sell Efrain Alvarez, because their acquisitions costs are 0, they get to basically take that revenue share and convert it to general allocation money. Over $1 million of that could be converted to general allocation money. You sell both of those guys this season, you could have over $2 million in general allocation money that you can use on your team, probably to sign more U-22 players or other things that you're sort of trying to do. Plus, it would be a big deal if they lost both Alvarez and Araujo in a short period of time. So, I mean, good and bad for all of this. I know, Eric, we were in a group chat. We were talking about FC Dallas selling players and then whatever comes of that. And so far, the answer is nothing. Right?
Exactly.
The LA Galaxy,
are they using that money to bring in?
Yeah, the LA Galaxy can't fall into that trap, right? The LA Galaxy win championships.
They won't.
Yeah, I have some faith in the people who are in charge, that they understand what they lost when they lost guys who went away for free. It is worth pointing out Dennis DeClosa is in a contract year as well, right? I mean, we remember when he signed on with Guillermo and then he hired Guillermo, right? And he came in. You know, there was a 3-year plan. This is year number 3. I think he gets super lucky in terms of Greg Vanney being available and being able to put that in. But I also think that he's worked hard at some of the other things that aren't always front facing that we don't see right away. Academy stuff, LA Galaxy 2 stuff. But anyway, it's a contract year for him. I think it's more 50-50 than people realize. Just that's intuition, nothing more. But with Greg Vanney in place, with Dennis DeClosa, I like that pairing. And if they work well together, they should stay together. But let's not kid ourselves. Greg Vanney may be perfectly capable of running this team as a general manager and a head coach as well. Yeah.
So to circle back to the players and the salary and what that impact, I think it's important to note that, like the FC Dallases of the world, the Colorado Rapids of the world, when that cap space opens up, you still have to pay that 1.4 to Cabral and whatever the higher salary is for Araujo and for Alvarez. But those teams maybe aren't willing to do that. So the benefit of having a team like the Galaxy that's AEG owned, and just a teaser, we're going to talk about, value of clubs and coefficients and all that fun stuff a little bit later. Yeah. But when you have a team that has deeper pockets, this allows them, you get to skirt the cap rules, and you still have the funds in the back pocket to help pay these players in the end, and that's the good thing. And so to bring it back forward to Dennis DeClosa, I think these moves that he's making, he's kind of, we have those players who play well in a contract year who score a bunch of goals because they know their contract's on the line. I think DTK is making these moves and kind of wheeling and dealing and showing that he's got the aptitude. Because you're right, Greg Vanney is both a blessing and a curse because he's someone who's been a GM and a coach at the same time. So a lot of the stuff you hear in press conferences and the players that they've brought in say, well, Vanney was scouting him or Vanney knew the coach, or it seems like a lot of the first team players are Vanney guys. Right. So in the back of your head, you think, well, is Vanney already kind of a faux GM? So what is Dennis doing? But you're right. I think the academy, all of the surrounding aspects of the club, there's a lot more to it than just the first team. And that's why I think it's kind of a perfect marriage because, Greg Vanney can be the quote unquote GM of the first team, but Dennis DeClosa, the LA Galaxy is a large club with a lot of moving parts, and Dennis gets to obviously still be involved with the first team, but he gets to, maybe dive in some of those lesser known parts that he likes to dig into. We know that he's someone who kind of lives in those tight spaces. And so I think, it really is a good marriage if they're able to stick around, and that all depends, how hungry is Vanney? Does he want that power back, or does he want to ease his way in? And does he like the relationship that he has with Dennis? I like the way they're working together. It obviously seems to be working out very well this season. So I'm curious to see if that relationship could continue. So it's interesting that you think it's 50-50 because I think Dennis hasn't. I don't see a lot of stains on his record to say, okay, it's time to part ways, unless he has other offers and he has other options. That's a different conversation altogether, though.
That is also, Dennis DeClosa is well known around the world of soccer, so I could see that as well as being, something for him to go. Anyway, that's sort of where we sit with Efrain coming in with that U-22 rule. I want to get to some of the media calls now as well, and the media call today was interesting. We were waiting for one of those updates on everything to sort of come through and say, hey, is who's going to be available, and we were waiting for that. That was sort of one of those things that we were waiting for to try and see if we were going to get some real answers from Greg Vanney. And I will say, I think we did get some real answers from Greg Vanney. So it was one of those things that we were looking at that said, there's a lot of guys who may be coming back, and Vanney was sort of hedging his bets last time we talked to him. It's basically been a week since the last time we talked to Greg Vanney, so we wanted to get it. The interesting part about this media call as well, Ryan Revolution was speaking to us for the first time as well. There was a French translator there, so we could talk to him. He seems like a laid back, cool guy. I'll tell you, I don't think it was like, the best stuff in terms of, trying to get to know him very well. And I think we're going to have to develop that relationship a little bit. And it's always more difficult when you're talking through a translator anyway. But
so
yeah.
Be very careful. Stephen A. Smith, we're in some territory here. but it's something the Galaxy aren't used to. And you still get the personality. Like how often have we talked about sidebar, yes. Jonathan Dos Santos and his personality, and even before he started kind of dabbling in English. So I just thought that was funny. I needed to make that joke while it was fresh.
That was good because when you cover soccer, you get to cover so many different languages and different things, and whether it's Spanish or French or German or anything, any language across the world, you're going to be introduced to it. And so we're used to speaking with the translators, that type of thing. It was one of those things where I don't think he's quite comfortable with us yet, right? He didn't know what to expect from it, the whole thing, and it was good. Although Larry pulled out his French as much as French. Larry has like a whole sentence that he knows. He's like, how are you doing today? It's nice to see you, blah, blah, blah. He does that. And then I pulled out all the French that I knew as well, which was merci. And I got a little smile. And that's all I ask for on occasion, is just be like, I understand. I do not speak your language. That is not your fault. That is my fault. And I will do what I can. So all the reporters, I think we all try to pull out a little French to make people feel a little more welcome. So he was great. I'll tell you the one thing that he said, Eric, that was absolutely 100% true. And they were asking, how did you adapt so quickly, or what do you see the differences of coming over from France and here? And he basically said it's hard to find a home here in LA, which I think we can all relate to. Yeah. So
ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's funny. You and Larry would be excellent educators. That's what we call lowering the effective filter. So you make the student feel comfortable. That way you can gain that trust. So
we're trying.
You're right there. You guys are using the strategies without even knowing it.
It's because I'm a moron. That's why. I've been to France. I know they look at. I try to speak. I always say, if you ever go anywhere, try to speak the language that you're there. Just try. And I think you get a lot of respect whenever you do that.
A few buzzwords, yeah.
Yeah, you get as much as you. But my wife and I, we went on our honeymoon to Paris, and so we would walk in and we would say bonjour, and all the French phrases that we had sort of learned to say hello, and then usually that got us through to whatever we needed to do. And most of the times people spoke English, and they could sort of tell that we didn't speak French, so it worked out all the time. So go out there, explore, and enjoy that. But Revolution is good. Jared Dubois actually texted me today, and he was like, they can't be saying his last name right. That can't be Revolution. And I'm like, and I sent him the video of him saying it himself, right? And I'm like, this is what he said. I go, you listen to it. He goes, it sounds like he's saying Revolution. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's what we're going with, the whole deal.
We had this conversation when he announced it, how I said, I agree with Jared. I feel like there's something in he's like he's giving us the English version to appease us. That's what it feels like. But we're going to take it and we're going to run with it.
Okay, cool. We're good with that. Greg Vanney came out and said that he ruled Chicharito out. Sega Coulibaly is out. Basically on Chicharito, and listen, I've been watching the chat room. People are saying, he looks fine on Instagram. That's not a game, and Instagram is not a game. It's not there. And Greg Vanney he said, hey, he's going through his return to play sort of statuses, right? He's going through his stuff that he's supposed to be doing. And, whenever you look at that and say, okay, these things, he's going through the stuff. It's just like he's not getting he's not getting fully fit yet, right? It's not there yet. You want to be able to. Greg always talked about like Victor Vasquez whenever he had his groin issue that he was sort of working through. He's like, can he stop and kick a ball across the field? Like, stop on a dime and kick a ball across the field like he always does. And if the answer is no, then he's not ready to come back, right? It's those little things.
And it also, you want to follow up the point of the season that it is, you're going away, at altitude, playing against the last place team, 2 games in quick succession. do we really need Chicharito here? Do you need him right now? Do you want to push it and give him that extra stress, on it now? And because we really need him on this away trip against the Vancouver Whitecaps? Or do you say maybe he's good enough and can probably play, but it might not be a good idea? So you just deal with it and you say, you know what, let's keep him in bubble wrap. We'll save it. And then, when we play a tougher game or we feel like an opponent, needs it, then we'll bring him in. But I think we have to pause now. Because there's some crazy stuff happening in the chat.
We have two things, and I don't want to forget Aaron, because Aaron's was a long time ago, and I want to make sure we get there.
Aaron's got overshadowed here.
Aaron gave us a $5 super chat and says, if Eric's dogs played soccer, which dog would play which position? So quickly, Eric, what's the answer to that?
I've got the answer. So
yes.
I got Rocket. He's my forward. I actually kick the soccer ball around. He chases it. Then I got Jet. He's my defensive midfielder. He's breaking up plays. He's running into other dogs.
Right.
And then I got Coco. She's my goalkeeper. She's always blocking everyone.
Okay.
So those are my positions. Rocket forward. Jet defensive midfield. Coco is a goalkeeper. I've got a great spine to start my dog soccer team here.
All right, and then we have to get to. I think this is the record. I mean, I believe this is the record. And I don't know the screen name. Is it B? I'm just going to say it's BYLC31. Gave us a $100 super chat, which is way more than is certainly necessarily. But what they said was, Rich Galaxy fan here, can't make the live pod, but I'd like to pay it forward and get 10 Galaxy fans in for the event. Also, $49.99 to get Pato a few beers. Happy early 40th, bud. Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Awesome.
We will make sure. So the 10 people who you were like, I don't think I really want to pay, you now get to just go. All right. So this nice person has given you free license to show up to our podcast on July 31st. All right. So we expect to be there. And thank you for that. That's amazing. That's awesome. I promise with the $50 for a few beers, I will pay that forward to people who are around me whenever I am there as well. So if I haven't told you yet, there will be birthday beers after the show, because our show stops around 7, and at 7:15, Josh will be drinking birthday beers. So there we go.
It's literally on the schedule. Birthday beers 7:15. So you're a punctual person. You're a planner. So I imagine that's how it's going to go off. But big shout out to you, BYLC31. $99. That's incredible.
That's awesome.
And you're right. Thanks for paying for the people who maybe were unsure on the fence. They're now covered.
Now you can
go in guilt free, and then of course for the birthday beers for the Pato himself. So shout out to you. That's awesome. Rich Galaxy fans on full display.
That's right. It is Rich Galaxy fans. Everybody knows that the Galaxy are Rich Galaxy fans. That's a thing that happens all the time. So that's awesome. Super stoked about that. Here's some other things that we know. We said Koulibaly will be out as well. Danilo Acosta is questionable. He's been working on some things. Let me give you the good news. Daniel Steres is back training with the team. So that technically, Greg didn't say it, but he'll be available for selection. So however that ends up happening, we'll see whether or not he wants to start somebody, bring somebody in. There's a bunch of games here. 3 games in 8 days. People will say 7 days. It's not. It's 8 days. A Saturday is 8, not 7. So it's 3 games in 8 days. They happen in rapid succession. So, this is going to be something that Vanny talked about. And he talked about rotating guys in this press conference. I asked him about, how you sort of approach these 3 games. It's their longest road trip. Optimistically, they get to stay in one place for 2 days. That's one of the things that I don't think we've said is that Greg confirmed that they will stay in Utah between the 2 games, because they play Vancouver in Utah on Saturday, and then Wednesday they play RSL in Utah. So
and the added wrinkle to that is it was also announced that the Canadian teams will be returning to their home stadiums in Canada. So Montreal, Toronto will be returning, but Vancouver will stay because they're doing upgrades to their stadium. So the Galaxy again benefit, even though Canadian teams are returning, Vancouver is still going to stay in that spot. So they benefit that didn't change the week that you're planning to go.
Right.
Now that you have to go up to Vancouver and then travel to RSL, it worked out with the scheduling that they knock out their Vancouver games in close succession, and they don't have to travel, because it's a longer road trip to go up there to Vancouver. So it's nice to keep that at least a little bit closer. Not that Salt Lake is, a 1 hour Southwest flight, but still, it's a little bit better.
What is it? Like an hour and a half?
Like an hour and a half.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to make sure. I was just checking.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he talked about it, and the only downside to this was, had they gone to Vancouver, we could have asked about vaccination status of the team, because we've seen that coaches are answering questions about whether or not everybody will be available to travel to Canada, and you need to be fully vaccinated in order to make that. And we don't know what the LA Galaxy's full vaccination status is. So it was one of those things that you can sort of look at and say, hey, we missed out on that. But we'll see. That was really their only chance, because in the Western Conference, it's just Vancouver, who's a Canadian team, and the Galaxy will have played them twice away. So Vancouver, I think, comes to LA still. And so, yeah, that's sort of where we sit on those ones. Let's see some of the other stuff that they talked. He talked about rotating players from midweek game. Wasn't worried about the 4 days rest. This is interesting. It's getting into Greg's head a little bit. He's not worried about Saturday to Wednesday. Okay, what he is worried about, though, Eric, is Wednesday to Saturday. And he says the 4 days
Correct.
Guys can handle. He goes, he's not worried about that. He goes, and yes, we're at altitude, but we're going to stay there. So every day we're there, we're going to adapt a little bit to it. So he goes, I expect to be okay for that. He goes, but certainly we're looking at game 3 as well. Whenever we're looking at game 2, and because of that, there may be rotations, there may be some stuff to sort of go, and change things. So look at that midweek game against RSL as perhaps the time when Greg goes into full heavy rotations, and who's available and how that works. Dan Steres is back with the team. We talked about Williams. Derek Williams is back off of suspension. You expect him to play. He was asked about sort of how he's handled the time off mentally, physically. Greg says physically he's fine, except that he needs to play games, and that'll take him a couple games to get into and sort of do it. He said mentally it probably started out pretty tough for him, but as things went on, he was more and more. So he seems pretty ready to go on all that. Let's see. I'm trying to go through stuff. I know I wanted to get to some audio. There's Greg is very detailed whenever he talks about things. Let's talk about the Ted Lasso news. Nikki K asked Greg if he had finished Ted Lasso yet. So I have his answer, and I'd rather just you hear it from him than anybody else. So here it is. He says, and then nothing happens, because that's what I like to do. I like to click the buttons and then make sure that they don't work. I'll fix it. Here we go.
I have not. Between the Euros, Copa America, now the Gold Cup, and us watching us and our opponents, I haven't watched much TV outside of just soccer. So, but I will, I promise.
He promised, and 2, he called us all lazy. Right? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm sorry. While you guys were all watching Ted Lasso, I was doing, my job, so it was one of those.
Also, to be fair, it's been out a year, so it's not like, you just caught up this week. We've already watched it, but he does get a pass. He's been a busy man. This is probably the worst time for Greg Vandy to catch up on a show. So let's give him till the off season, which hopefully is in December and January. Okay. Yeah. He can begin catching up on that.
He can watch seasons 1 and 2, and he just cruises right through that. So.
Right through it. That's 2 weeks, easy.
He will absolutely. So anyway, so that was some fun stuff there from Greg Vanny. I'm trying to think. One of the things he said about Chicharito I thought was interesting, and I'm going to see if I can follow it. Let's see. Yeah, here's Greg Vanny. He was asked, is there a chance that maybe we'd see Chicharito later in this? And Vanny, I thought, had a good answer to it. But not only that, listen to sort of his philosophy on Javier Hernandez.
There is some hope that we'll see him in the course of the week, whether that's Wednesday or Saturday. We're trying to progress him along and see where that's at. We're from our mindset, we're trying to push him along without rushing him, and that we're going to stick in that mindset. So as he's ready, as he feels good, and as he achieves the things that we need him to achieve to feel comfortable with putting him back, that there is no risk about putting him back, then we'll take those steps. So Wednesday, I would say, is questionable. We're hoping that Saturday is a lot more probable, but I won't really know until he starts crossing some of those thresholds that we want in his return to play.
So I just like to point out next Saturday, right? Not this Saturday. So
Correct.
This Saturday, he's out. He's already ruled him out. Wednesday, questionable. Next Saturday, more probable. All right. So that's how it sort of sits there. So everybody worried that it's going to be a long time. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a long time. It seems like he can rest him.
But I will raise I'm not going to press the panic button, but just going to wave a tissue as a flag of concern because it has the Galaxy last played on July 7th. So it's going to be 10 days by the time the next Vancouver game comes around. And Chicharito didn't play in that game at all. It's not like he picked up an injury. He was ruled out, from warm-ups during that game. And so 10 days later, still not ready. probably not ready. 14 days later, what is that? 13 days later, my math is, of course, on the spot, not great.
Right.
And still not going to be ready. So it's a little concerning. Okay, how serious is this injury? If it's not a for sure thing by Saturday, he's kind of, I don't know if Vanny's just saying the right things, playing it close to the vest, and maybe he will really be ready. But it makes you raise a little bit of a concern that maybe this injury is a little bit more serious, and it's going to take a long time for him to recover. Obviously, I mentioned it earlier, you don't want to have him push it too early and make it even worse. I think we've seen some Galaxy players do that in the past. So if the philosophy is to make sure he's 100% healthy, and if that's one of the protocols that they're making him go through, then great. But it does, just going to waive that little tissue of concern that maybe this could be the start of something that it makes us uncomfortable, and that second striker really becomes a position need.
We're having some of our listeners are also paying attention to the Gold Cup. USA is playing Martinique right now. As I see it, 83rd minute, 5-1 United States. Canada won their game earlier against Haiti 4-1. And so running up the scores are important in the group play to sort of see who wins group and how that sort of goes through. We wanted to give you a Gold Cup update as well. And that
Would you call it a Gold Cup date?
An old cup date? No, a gold cup date? Yes, a gold
cup date.
A gold cupcake? Yeah, okay.
Here I am coming up with the good jokes.
I don't want to let you.
Completely thrown out the window.
No, I don't want to let you.
All right, I'm muting myself.
$5 super chat. Good before I do it. $5 super chat from Patrick says this U.S. men's national team defender James Sands got game. There's been a lot. It's always whenever you get the MLS space guys, they go out there. There's always a few surprises. Busio has been great, which by the way should tell you about the LA Galaxy a little bit because I thought whenever they played Sporting Kansas City, they did a really good job in limiting Busio to doing a lot of anything really in the game. But he's such a good player. And he's one of those guys who is probably short term not going to be here for very much longer. There's all sorts of rumors out there that he's gone. So Dallas selling off players, like there's all sorts of things that are sort of happening right now.
And also to highlight Patrick's point, I think the Gold Cup, say what you will about B teams and C teams who are participating of those big countries, but it also is an opportunity, like you said, that James Sands kind of shows that he got game. Remember Uriel Antuna a couple seasons ago while he was playing for the Galaxy, got that call up, and that was basically his coming out party for Mexico, and he hasn't really relinquished that first team spot. He's come into the fold, and it was because of that breakout at the Gold Cup. So to Patrick's point, this is absolutely a showcase and a chance for some of these guys to break into the team.
Yeah, it is. Gold Cup Galaxy players. Efrain Alvarez came into the 83rd minute of Mexico's 3-0 win over Guatemala. Jonathan Dos Santos came in the 68th minute, so both LA Galaxy players getting time as substitutes in that game. Game was comfortably in hand even whenever Jonathan Dos Santos came in, but they scored the third goal shortly after he came on. And then Efrain Alvarez came in the 83rd minute. Game was over by then. And saw everything sort of ride out. Sebastian Lletget, to my knowledge, has not come on for the LA Galaxy or for the U.S. men's national team yet. He was not in the starting lineup. I haven't seen him be. I'm going to have the chat room check me just to make sure he hasn't made like a sneaky sub appearance here anytime soon. But whenever I started everything and was watching the first half of the game, he obviously hadn't come in yet. So in the second half, he may get some time coming in. Jamaica has a game on Friday. Costa Rica has a game on Friday. That's where O'Neal Fisher and Pipo Gonzalez might be playing as well, so keep an eye on that. Jamaica will play Guadeloupe at 3:30 on Friday. Pipo and Costa Rica play Suriname at 5:30 on Friday. So 3:30, 5:30. You can find both those games. I think it's all on Fox. So yes, that's where we're at right now. Let's get
Fox,
to...
and I will say, if you like the Spanish coverage, TUDN has been excellent with, they have someone from each country coming on at a certain time. Mauricio Cienfuegos has been there representing El Salvador, so it's kind of cool their setup. So if that's your cup of tea, I really like the TUDN coverage of the Euros and of the Gold Cup. I might even prefer it, even Spanish not being my preferred language or number one language. Their coverage is really good.
Okay, good to know.
Saying.
Everybody's there. And Aaron, I think, has checked us. No Sebastian Lletget as of the 87th minute. And there you go. Patrick has your gold cup.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yes, Patrick likes you. I can tell you all that already. Let's get to some All-Star Game voting. Why? Because I like to ridicule it every single year. So why not talk about it? One of the big changes that has been made this year, for the first time ever, MLS will allow votes for each position. Thank you, God, by the way. If you're going to do this, at least do it right. Don't have like, oh, well, I'm going to vote all the right backs in, and there's going to be 7 right backs or 7 right wingers, or this guy he plays at left wing, but I'm going to vote him in as a midfielder. And whenever they play the All-Star Game, they're going to have 7 left-sided midfielders and no right-sided midfielders. All that. So anyway, you can vote via position: right back, left back, center back, goalkeeper. All those things are up and available for you. MLS has it on their app and on their website, and you can go ahead and fill those out. So, Eric, what does it mean? And Corner of the Galaxy has been, I believe, consistent since 2009 when we did our very first show, the 2009 All-Star Game. I imagine we gave the same advice. And this advice is this: you do not vote for LA Galaxy players, and the last thing you want is for your players to be playing in a meaningless exhibition game in a crowded, ridiculous schedule underneath your arch rival's head coach. Okay, so Bob Bradley's coaching. The game is at Bank of California Stadium, which, by the way, everybody's complaining about the ticket prices. I think,
was in the chat early on.
$200 or something like that for a ticket.
$200, and then you have the Ticketmaster fees on top of it, and that's before third party. So there's plenty of tickets available. They just can't seem to sell them. So the price point just seems a bit ridiculous. But at Bank of California Stadium, the price point for a lot of those games, because it's a smaller stadium and the location, it doesn't seem like you can get inexpensive tickets at that stadium for anything.
I was going to say the other part about this is that whenever it comes to All-Star Games, it's a sponsor event, right? This is the time MLS gets to bring all their sponsors in, and they get to give them tickets to this and say, this is what you get for doing this, and here's all your tickets. So the majority, a big portion of that stadium that holds around 22,000 people is going to be sponsors and like those things. And so everybody who's there, who's not, it jacks up the prices again.
And the irony is that the people who are going to be at that game are going to be, the Target sponsors, the GMs of Target, who probably don't even watch soccer, but they got tickets to the game because their company's sponsoring it. So it's kind of interesting that you're going to have more of a corporate crowd. But to go back to the COG sponsored strategy of you vote all your LAFC players, your San Jose players, your Seattle players,
right?
Vote them all. But I have a bit of a hot take. I'm going to go the other direction, play devil's advocate here. Yes. You're not keeping Chicharito out of this game.
No.
I think the fan vote, regardless of how many Galaxy fans don't vote him in, I think just around the league and his fame, I think his notoriety, I just think you're not keeping him out of this game. He's going to get voted in anyway, so you deal with it, you live with it. And even if, let's say you were right, and we all rallied around, Galaxy Twitter, and we got on social media, and we made a push, and we said, do not vote Chicharito, and he doesn't make the All-Star team, guess what? Don Garber gets some picks. And at the very least, against that Liga MX team, Don Garber is going to pick up Chicharito if he wasn't originally voted. So you're not keeping Chicharito out of this game. So if you want to vote for Chicharito, vote for him. Maybe it might be even a fun thing to say he got the most votes, and you can support him in that regard because you don't want a rival team getting more votes. The other positions is where it gets a little bit trickier, and I will say there is a benefit of it being in Los Angeles because they're not traveling to Minnesota, they're not traveling to Orlando. So the travel, you're not going to get as much fatigue. And then with 26 players, you're not going to get a full 90 minutes. You're probably going to get 45 minutes, maybe 60 minutes. So the toll on it really isn't great. Yes, we don't want any minutes, but at the same time, if it's going to happen anyway, and there are deserving players, I think Chicharito, Golden Boot leader, the notoriety that he has, you're not keeping him out. And I think there are really only 2 other worthy all-stars on this team, and I think it's Jonathan Bond and Julian Araujo.
Yes.
And so you think the goalkeeper position, that's a showcase for him. Not a bad thing. You want to show your support. Maybe people around the league still don't know who he is, so you put him on the map. And then Araujo, again, he's a player who maybe isn't long for the Galaxy, and you want to get that showcase. You want to see him lock down Liga MX player. So if those 3 players got voted in, I could live with it. But, someone like a Jonathan Dos Santos who's hardly played, when he has played, hasn't been great. To see him voted in, I don't think that'd be great, especially with being time away from the Gold Cup and injuries. I just don't see the benefit of that. Cabral hasn't done enough. Grand Sur hasn't done enough. So I don't think those players will get there. But I think Chicharito, Julian Araujo, and Jonathan Bond, if they went in, I can live with it because it's close by and it's a different showcase for them because of their positions.
You forgot one name. And
Okay,
you're not
who'd I
wrong.
miss?
You're not wrong, by the way. I want you to say you're not wrong. Of those three, those are the three who I think deserve to be there. Chicharito is going in. Listen, 12 players will be determined by a vote of MLS players, fans, and media. As a media person, I don't have a vote in this. I know Baxter does. So Baxter had. I was going over his list that he had there. Each of the three voting groups will represent 1/3 of the combined vote. Then 12 will be selected by MLS All-Star head coach Bob Bradley. So he's going to select. I mean, again, you talk about the distance thing. This is where it's bad because the Galaxy are just down
Correct.
the road. Bob could pick
Yeah.
more LA Galaxy players to come in and fill out his roster for those spots that he had, and that I could see that happening. And 2 will be selected by MLS Commissioner Don Garber. Chicharito's going to be in on the players, fans, and media votes, and if not, Bob Bradley would pick him, and if not, Garber would pick him. They have his picture and Carlos Vela's picture on basically like all the adverts for all this stuff. So those things are there. The one person that you didn't say, and again, you're not wrong on this, it's just you didn't say his name, is Sebastian Lletget. And you're 100% correct that he has not done enough this year to make an all-star vote, but he's a U.S. men's
He'll get
national
voted in.
he's the
Yeah.
U.S. men's national team voter.
Yeah.
And
You're
he's
right.
he's a guy that Bob Bradley would probably be like, we should probably have him on the team, and he's just down the freeway, and we can bring him up. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get 3 players. I think Jonathan Bond, people are going to say he absolutely deserves to be there. And as Galaxy fans, we've watched and we've seen it. We've been like, yeah, duh. I think that's more of a reach outside of people who don't watch that LA Galaxy all the time because his stats aren't great because he faces almost more shots than anybody else.
Well,
yeah.
And the thing, like I saw some of the big wigs over at MLS Extra Time mentioning someone like Brad Stuver, who's at Austin. And so Austin's getting just their rear ends handed to them. But because Stuver has the most saves because he's taking on water, quite a bit, then he's going to be in that conversation as well. So Bond's kind of similar because that defense is allowing a lot of shots. He's in there, but he has a better win percentage. So I think that gives him the edge. But you're right. He's not that known commodity like a Chicharito. So you're right. It is a little bit of the reach, but from my heart and as a Galaxy podcast, he's a deserving. If we're saying who deserves to be there, I think it's Chicharito, Araujo, and Bond. Those are the 3. And then I think Lletget's gonna ride Blue Steel all the way to the All-Star game, and that's probably the reason that's going in.
Okay, good. I'm glad we got that. Real quickly on some of the stats, I just wanted to get you some fun stats that I sort of ran across. And I this happens on occasion. We talk to you all the time, but MLS sends out things and they're trying to highlight a certain player. In this case, it was Diego Valeri, who now climbed into the top, I think, 10 in most assists in MLS career. He's now has 90 assists in 244 games played. Landon Donovan, by the way, is number 1 in that. 340 games played, 136 assists. Steve Ralston, by the way, has 135 assists. He's in number 2. But there is a guy who currently plays for the LA Galaxy who's also on this list. He's number 8, Sasha Kleshin. Excuse me, I think he's he's 8. 8, 9, 10. I can count. Don't worry. Sasha Kleshin, 291 games played, 95 assists. Just a note, Sasha Kleshin has not recorded an assist yet this year. But having said that, he's a guy who, you should sort of keep an eye on. He is a guy who's climbing up Major League Soccer history. I mean, if he suddenly has a really good year and racks off, 45 assists, because I'm sure that's happening, and he could pass Landon Donovan. I mean, he's within striking distance, maybe, perhaps.
Never say never. If Chicharito stays on top form, then maybe he can get there. But I will say, when you look at the players on that list, obviously Landon Donovan, Valderrama, Preki, Echeverry, Kobe Jones. It's an impressive company to be in. So kudos to you, Sasha, just for being in that company. And of course, we hope that those numbers rise. He can get to 100. He can break the triple digits. That's my prediction for Sasha. I think he could do that this season.
I think he should. I think that should be his goal. We'll talk to him. We'll make it happen. Longest undefeated streak. Now they wanted to talk about Seattle on this because Seattle has rolled since last season, 15 games undefeated right now, and it is approaching the best ever, which was Toronto between 2019 and 2020. They had 19 games unbeaten, tied with FC Dallas, tied with Columbus Crew. FC Dallas in 2010, the year that they knocked the LA LA Galaxy out of the playoffs. Columbus Crew in 2004 to 2005 had 19 there as well. But I wanted to point out the LA Galaxy also on this list in 2009 to 2010, they went 15 games undefeated. And in 1997 to 1998, they had 15 games undefeated. Now, there's a twist on this, which is the longest single season undefeated streak in a single season, right? So inside the season, how many it goes?
It's a lot of qualifiers.
It is. FC Dallas leads that with 19. That's their 2010 that they rolled on that one. You have Portland and Colorado and Portland again with 15. You have the LA Galaxy in there, tied in there with Sporting Kansas City and DC United for 14. And that was the LA Galaxy team in 2011. They ended up winning the Supporters Shield and the MLS Cup the last time that the Supporters Shield was a balanced event. So the LA Galaxy winning the double there in one of the best LA Galaxy teams that I've ever seen played. So those were just fun little stats that I thought we could touch on here and there, Eric, just to sort of say, hey, these things are around, give you a little idea of what is going on. Quickly now, we're going to move on. Go ahead.
Last thing, I also makes you feel a little bit better about 2010 as well, because you think, okay, they didn't just go out to a schlubby, FC Dallas team. That FC Dallas team, got hot at the right time and was a decent team and a worthy team. If you're going to lose, at least you lose to someone who's on a list like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get just some fun stuff. You and I were joking around. Sportico did a most valuable team, and they made a list of the top 10 most valuable teams in Major League Soccer. One of the things, though, that they wanted to look at was value to revenue, which whenever you look at the other major sports, they did the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the Premier League. And basically, the average value of the team and, the average revenue and what that is, they say that MLS is 12.2 and, the second best one there is the NBA at 7.8. Basically, if the average value is $550 million for a franchise and the average revenue is $45 million, right? They're basically just showing it's 12.2. The average value to revenue multiple is 12.2, which is interesting, which is why trust me, people who are looking at this and who have ridiculous amounts of money, Eric, who want to own professional sports teams, when they're looking, this is something they're looking at. This is something that they would know, and this is one of the reasons why MLS is able to attract so many new investors and that type of thing. So it's something to sort of keep an eye on. Anything on this?
I love that we keep finding new metrics, talk about, most wins in a season for a season within a season. Again, value to revenue multiple. That's a new, I work in math and some different things. This is a new one for me. So, but I like where it's going, and it feels like this was a chart that was made up just to try to, like, someone at MLS made this chart just to make them look good.
Right.
And so, but it makes sense because of what the contract says. They're not, the value itself for what people pay to see it's lower, but they are bringing in a lot of money with advertising and with, jersey sales. It's kind of a under the radar hit. And when you sent me this earlier, I was preparing to make a joke that COG, Corner of the Galaxy, is one of the best value to revenue multiples of podcasts. But I think with BYLC's contribution, that revenue went way up, and I think our multiple shot our multiple down. That really lowered our value. So I was going to say you get the most bang for your buck, but now that we have that revenue coming in, I don't know, that puts on the pressure that we have to kick it up a notch here.
Yeah, I think so. Let's get to Sportico, and they rank the top 10 most valuable franchises in Major League Soccer. The LA Galaxy finished 3 in this. $835 million is what they value that franchise at. Atlanta United, $845 million. And then they have LAFC at $860 million. As with any of these, I will say that these are stabs in the dark completely and totally. And that usually what Forbes has the list that comes out, and we look at the Forbes list. But I can't disagree with a lot of this. The stadium and where it's located, the land itself, I don't believe can be owned by LAFC, but the stadium is, I believe, owned by LAFC. It's like the structure itself has value there. And so it makes sense to me that they're in that sort of $860 million range, although the LA Galaxy and their location and the complex that they have, I mean, just AEG and how much land they are able to use. And the same thing, by the way, that land is leased from Cal State Dominguez Hills, right? That's not AEG owned land. The stadium is AEG's. But, it's one of those things, same sort of presence there. But anyway, I just thought it was really interesting to look at that. The top 10 goes LAFC, Atlanta, LA Galaxy, Seattle, New York City, Toronto, Portland, DC United, Austin, which is interesting coming into the league and already in the number 9 spot there, and then supporting Kansas City at $550 million. So no surprises there. It's
funny. You kind of went the same angle that I was thinking of about the real estate and where they're located. And I know that's sometimes as a perceived dig is the playing in Carson and not the heart of the city in downtown LA. But when you think about it, if MLS franchises are valued and being in Los Angeles is important, and you think, and that location in downtown Los Angeles is only worth 25 million more, and then that's the difference, and that's not too bad. That's I think all things considered, big picture, and we'll see how that works over time. We've started to see some things slip up. Obviously, they're the hot shiny new toy, and what's the sustainability there? Are they going to be able to maintain that? Same thing with Atlanta. I think Atlanta was going to be maybe top of this list. And if they continue to slip up, do they keep that value? So
right.
The fact that the Galaxy of the original 96 franchises are up there and still up there, that's a good sign. Obviously based on location, Southern California, the Los Angeles market, but maybe a minor hit for that real estate area and where they're located. But again, this is the funny money, weird things doesn't really mean it's if someone's going to come in and pay for it, your Steve Ballmer, who's going to pay,
right.
A couple billion for the Clippers, then that's what it's worth. So you're right. It's only worth once it trades hands, then you see what the actual evaluation would be.
Aaron, by the way, says about LAFC Stadium. He says if they own the stadium, can they pick up the stadium and move it somewhere? Like the county dump.
Wow! With the sound effect, well done.
Yeah, well, I've been hanging out around here for a while. All right, I've done a couple shows now under my belt, so I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Anyway. So, that's where we sit with those valuations. I thought it was interesting to sort of bring that out. Now, let's get to the LA Galaxy and taking on the Vancouver Whitecaps, because it's at that point now. We've talked about Vancouver Whitecaps and where they sit. And currently last place in the Western Conference. They have 9 points from 12 games, 2-7-3. The other teams the LA Galaxy will be playing on this road trip, the midweek game, will be against Real Salt Lake, who is in 6th place, so the best team of these 3 games. And you talked about Vanny possibly rotating in the middle.
Correct.
I mean, sit there and say what you will. This is not one of those things, Eric, where you look at it and you say, the LA Galaxy absolutely come out and get 9 points from this, and if you do, you're not paying attention to it, right? But I'm saying that 7 points would be outstanding.
Wow. That's high.
Outstanding. Well, I mean, so you're playing the 2 last place teams, right? You have Dallas, who is in 12th place in the Western Conference. They have 11 points. They're 2-5-5. You have Vancouver, who's in 13th, right? But
you're going away to Dallas as the third of the 3 games.
Yes.
So while on paper that should be an easy game, it's really not going to be an easy game. I think Vancouver.
They just sold
feels a little more.
They just sold a guy to Venice. I mean, what are they doing?
He's on a gondola.
Can you imagine, just for a second, you're an LA Galaxy fan. Let's set this, okay? And I think everybody can be within this space and understand that the LA Galaxy were there not too long ago, right? But the LA Galaxy were in last place in the Western Conference, and then they sell one of their most prominent developing pieces that probably could have helped the team get out of last place. There would be a riot at the digs, right? People would go crazy. It's like you have a guy who can help you and the whole deal. In Dallas, that's just how it goes. That's
the precedent has been set. That's what they do. They have young talent and then they ship it away at the first bidder who comes knocking. So you're right. If Araujo went this season, while we've been talking about that and how that's a possibility, people would be upset because they say, well, if Chicharito's looking good, if the team's starting to gel, Araujo could have been an important piece to make a run here, and people would be upset that he's gone. But it just seems like that's business as usual for FC Dallas. So it's interesting. I think this game on Saturday is a little more must-winny, even though obviously it's not a must-win at this point in the season. But it's like they're in last place. They're missing Cavallini. They're missing Crepeau. They're missing Gutierrez. They're missing basically 3 out of their 4 best players who are gone for the Gold Cup with Canada. So
they sold a designated player who hasn't been playing with them at all this year anyway. So that doesn't. Ali Adnan is gone as well.
They terminated that contract. So again, you look at it on paper, even without Chicharito, this feels like it should be 3 points. And then middle of the week at Salt Lake, that's the one I don't have as much faith on that one because Salt Lake's at home, their actual home.
Right.
And again, midweek, short rest. I just don't feel as good about that one. So maybe you can get a point at Dallas, or if you beat up on Dallas because they're missing Tanner Tessman, 6 points. I think in between 4 and 6 points is a success.
Okay, I like that. I can see it. I would like to hear. I want to relay something I heard. Vancouver played RSL last week, right? Or whenever everybody was playing games before the Gold Cup, the last one, and they beat them 4-0. That was the RSL beat them. RSL was the away team that night, right? So they were, but apparently one of the stewards, whenever RSL fans were streaming in for that game to watch the RSL be the away team at their own stadium to Vancouver, they were saying, one of the stewards was like, "Welcome to Vancouver, everybody," and that, I don't know, for whatever reason, that makes me like a roll on the inside. I can't handle. I would crack up if I saw that. So anyway, let's get you some info here. LA Galaxy are headed to Vancouver. It's a 7 p.m. start time. It's actually 7:08 p.m. start time. This game is on Spectrum Sportsnet. So Kobe Jones, Joe Tutino, and Nikki K will have the coverage there. It is again at RSL's stadium, Rio Tinto there in Sandy, Utah. It's at altitude. The pitch is going to be hard and bumpy, just like it always is. The only difference between this field and Portland's field is Portland's field is made of plastic, and this one at least has grass. But that's about the only thing. Every time
grass on cement doesn't make it much better. Yeah.
No, it feels this is always a tough place to play. We saw what happened the last time the LA Galaxy played Vancouver. We saw the last minute win from Efrain Alvarez, who won't be there this time. There's no Chicharito, you know that. There's no Sega Coulibaly, we know that. There's no Danilo Acosta, not surprised, but he hasn't really been on any of those team sheets anyway, so that's not a big deal. But you're getting Steris back, you're getting back, Williams back, no Sebastian Lletget is going to be there, so there's things that are going to have to sort of go about, but we've seen this LA Galaxy team play without pieces before, and the starting lineup doesn't get altered too much. And I think so if you're looking at starting lineups and what we've seen in the last couple games with Chicharito out and Zuback up top, and whether Augie Williams gets put in there, I think we're going to see something consistent with that as well. The only thing I wanted to say is that Greg Vanney said one thing during his call that I thought was super interesting because I just didn't think about it. He said, we have to figure out ways to rest guys and rotate guys and do that. He goes, but maybe that means we change, the way we play. Maybe we change our shape a little bit to control the ball more, and maybe not be as, forward pressing on some of these things, and not have our guys go bombing up and down the right and left wings like we normally have our fullbacks do. He goes, maybe we pull them back a little bit. We say, conserve your energy. And yes, of course, that makes sense. But to hear somebody say it and then have the light bulb click off in your head whenever you hear it, it's like, where's Greg Vanney been? Like, why? Like, I don't remember this level of coaching insight. And maybe, Bruce would have never said that, by the way, because he doesn't want to tip anything off. And Bruce is old school like that. I'm not going to say anything that you can use against me, blah, 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 the whole deal. But with Greg, he's so forthright about it. And then it almost feels like I feel like an idiot every time I talk to him because he tells me something that's so obvious that I missed, of course.
Well, it's one of those like cliches. You say if he says in a press conference, conserve energy, maybe the fans or maybe the media will read into that and say, well, he's telling his players not to play for a win or not to play hard. But it's also being real, being honest. You're going to be there. It's ahead. In the back of your head, players think this or coaches think this, and they feel that way. So it's okay to say it out loud, and as long as you give them that understanding. And then if you report at Corner of the Galaxy that Greg Vanney tells his players not to try hard, then maybe he won't share that that sound clip next time. But I think everyone kind of gets where it's at. But going back to without Chicharito there, other players needing to step up. I also like, you mentioned Ethan Zuback, and he's someone who I flip-flop more on Ethan Zuback than I think any other player in recent history. I feel like this could be like a Emma Boateng type moment for Zuback. He got his goal last game against Dallas. I feel like going away to Vancouver, who's depleted, maybe this is the Zuback game, where the magic happens, the Zubat trick, whatever we want to call it. I think we're in store for some fun in Vancouver with a different look lineup with Chicharito out.
Yeah, he's got some confidence. Let the kid play. Augie Williams, I think, has a little fire lit under him as well. I found something interesting in the notes here. There has been a shutout in 15 of the past 19 meetings between these two teams. With Williams coming back, with the possibility of Steris coming back, I would put my money on the LA Galaxy holding that shutout and not Vancouver. But having said that, the Galaxy don't exactly play Vancouver well overall in the grand scheme of things, right? So
these are not barn burners when these teams meet each other. Yeah,
no, it's almost
bet the under.
Yeah, exactly. Bet the under. Just looking at sort of the different players that Vancouver might have available, and you talked about some of the guys who are gone. This is a team that I think is missing an identity. That's missing, sort of that really good player that you really have to worry about. And obviously, the Galaxy are very familiar with this team. They just played them. So there's nothing in this that I think is dangerous for the Galaxy in this first game. Yes, it's on the road, and if the LA Galaxy came out of this whole road trip with 3 points and they got it from 3 draws, I don't necessarily know I would be like, I know you want to be disappointed. I get it.
Yeah,
it
would be.
You're on the road in Major League Soccer. Let's remember this. You're at altitude for 2 of these games. Let's remember this. Anytime you go on the road in Major League Soccer, your chances of winning that game go down severely. Okay? So again, keep that in mind. Keep things in perspective. The LA Galaxy are a good team this year. Okay? We haven't been able to say that in so long. Yes.
And what the Galaxy have showed us this season is they beat the teams they're supposed to beat. And that's why 3 draws in this road trip would be disappointing, because you are supposed to beat Vancouver. You're supposed to beat Dallas. So I agree with you. Vancouver doesn't have that game changer, Christian Dajome, I think, or Dahome, whatever.
Dahome.
I think Tatino says Dahome, and I was like, he always says Dahome, and I always makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
but he's the one player who leads them in goals, and so, but he's not like a superstar or someone who you really need to worry about. So I think the Galaxy do need to think in the back of their heads that they needed Alvarez to bail them out, so maybe they try to put the game away early and not let Vancouver hang around, because we've seen Vancouver hang around. You're right, there are these bugaboo teams for the Galaxy for whatever reason. Your Houstons, your Vancouvers, where you just let them hang around and then weird stuff happens. And Vancouver is one of those teams. So if the Galaxy are who we think they are, they beat the teams they're supposed to beat. This game in Vancouver should be a guaranteed 3 points, which leads me to 538.
Yes,
you want to know what 538 says?
Yes.
So 538 has the LA Galaxy as road favorites with a 42% chance to win, giving Vancouver only a 34% chance to win, and then a 24% chance for a draw.
I don't disagree with that. I mean,
seems right.
I'm fine. I'm fine with that. Like, I'm not going to argue with that. By the way, the only team in Major League Soccer who doesn't have a draw, name them.
I don't know.
You don't. Yes,
New
you do.
England.
No, it's the LA Galaxy. They haven't drawn. They haven't drawn a single game. Come on.
Yeah, I knew that.
I was giving you. I was putting one on a tee for you and smacking it out. You're like, the LA Galaxy. Do they have a draw?
I'm like, the LA Galaxy do, but I thought you were in another team. Yeah.
Yeah. No. That's it. The only team without a draw. By the way, let's see. Who said it? Mr. Provino says first draw of the season in the next 3 games. I feel like there's a draw in one of these games. I feel like that RSL midweek game might be a draw. Might be a crazy draw, though. It might be like 5-5 or something stupid. It'll keep everybody...
I go the other direction. I think RSL, they just go and they, kick the ball in a circle. Everyone walks out with 1 point.
That's right. And
midweek, and we leave home happy.
There you go. That's a little handshake agreement. That would work fine. All right. So, Eric, if we're looking at this, LA Galaxy head into Vancouver. One, you have to tell me what the score is, who's going to win this first game, and then I want to know your point total for the next 3 games.
All right. I think this game is going to be an LA Galaxy win. My goal prediction is 3-1. I'm calling the Ethan Zuback hat trick, the Zubat trick.
Right.
And then I think over the course of these games, I'm going to say they win at Vancouver, lose at RSL, and then draw at Dallas.
So you're giving them 4 points. Okay. All right.
And then I'm guaranteed to be wrong. So I did that on purpose.
Okay, good. I think the LA Galaxy win against Vancouver. I think it's 2-0 with the shutout. I'm feeling good about Derek Williams coming back and settling that defense a little bit there. The total points here, I'm gonna go with 7. All right. I want to see.
I like it.
I want to see what they do against RSL, because I think RSL is a team that is much closer to where the LA Galaxy, are performing right now. I know they're 6th and the LA Galaxy are 3rd. They're not separated by that many points. I haven't watched RSL play enough to really get a feel for what they are and how they do it, but they're at home. It's midweek. They'll have their fans there. It's at altitude. It's the second game. I mean, all the things are stacked against the LA Galaxy. So I could see them losing that game, but that's one of the reasons I want to see if they can rotate players and get a draw out of it.
You ready to see me backtrack?
Yes.
Because that's what I do. The Galaxy, to me, where they're positioned, I just feel it doesn't feel real. So I'm like protecting myself. I'm waiting for the wheels to come off.
Right.
I'm waiting for it to go wrong. I think it's the past few years that have scarred me. The Galaxy are playing well, especially recently. And you just think, well, there's no way they can keep this going. Eventually, they have to have a letdown game on the road, or the wheels have to fall off. And so that's what I'm thinking. Okay, maybe this 3-game stretch on the road, this is where the wheels fall off. But if they continue to play like they did against Seattle, against Kansas City, against Dallas, if they play like that, there's no reason why this can't be 7 points, maybe even 9 points. But I just feel like that's a tall order. And I feel like the other shoe needs to drop. Things need to balance out. I feel like they're outperforming, where they really belong.
Yeah. Philip says 10 points in the next 3 games, an extra point for being charming. An extra point for being so charming, Aaron adds. So there you go. That's where the LA Galaxy sit. Again, a game at 7:08 p.m. is the kickoff time. Spectrum Sportsnet coming up on Wednesday. So, it's going to be, coming up on Saturday. What day is it? It's Thursday. Game's coming up on Saturday. Then there's a Wednesday game. Then there's another Saturday game. So 3 games in rapid succession. Then there's a game on July 30th. Whoa, July 30th. So is that the day before we have a live show? Yes, it is. Eric, thanks for asking.
Hit the horn.
Yeah, let's see. Do I have the horn? Yes, I do. Okay, yes. Again, July 31st, 2021, down in Orange County, Taps Brewery in Tustin. It's where we had our live show before. You can get tickets. Go to cornerofthegalaxy.com, click the live button there, and it'll take you to the buy tickets. Tickets are $5. You don't need a ticket. I just appreciate it if you get one, so that way I can sleep at night. That's where we're going. A lot of fun things are planned for that. We'll have a lot more details as we continue working through this week and into next week and all that sort of fun stuff. So a lot of things coming for you, and we're glad that you could join us. All right, anything else, Eric, you want to get to? Because I think we're done.
No, I love the timing of that with the Friday night game, and then the Saturday you have a little hair of the dog the next day just to keep the party rolling. So we will look forward to seeing you both on Friday at that Portland game, and then on Saturday at Taps, all of your lovely faces, having a good time for Josh's birthday.
Derek Williams' first home game back since being suspended will be against the team that he got suspended from. So I just thought I'd point that out. I thought that was fun. Good times.
Yeah,
all right.
We'll show them love.
Tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
All right. As always, you can find me on Twitter at HammerEV. You could also find me on Instagram. I'm back at Galaxy Profile. That's Galaxy PROFOUL.
All right. And if you're looking for me on Twitter at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com. Get your tickets to our live show July 31st. Get your videos. We have the press conferences. We have all that stuff. And a huge, huge, huge shout out to BYLC, who helped us out with a huge, record-breaking super chat here on the show. So we appreciate that, and that'll get some more people into our show. So you've been granted access to the show because of a wonderful donation by BYLC. So that's awesome. I love it. All right, let's see. I think that does it. For Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh, Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.